welcome everyone for taking part. And I've just been looking at your little comments coming up saying hello, and that was really nice. It's really good to see, and Happy New Year to you too. So what we're going to do is, okay, I need to calm down because I'm quite excited. So this is a sort of like a new venture. So any of you who know my work, you would know that I've done radio shows before where I've been giving live intuitive insights to callers on live on air. I've done this for Hay House Radio, I've done it on LBC, and I've done it on some smaller internet stations as well. And it's something I absolutely love doing. I was watching a film on Facebook the other day, and the guy was talking about apple trees, and he was saying, you know, an apple tree doesn't resist making apples, it just wants to make apples. And it doesn't matter if the apples are going to get eaten or if they're going to fall on the ground and have maggots eat them. There's just a desire to create, you know, it's a desire to create something. And this is something I love creating, and it's something that I really, really enjoy doing. So I just thought this was a good opportunity, as it's the new year, to just help some people get some clarity and some insights about what's going on in their life, what's important to you personally. So I want to encourage you to be brave enough to actually come on and talk to me personally. Putting your video on or not putting your video on, however open you may be. But the reason why I want to encourage you to do that is one thing I've heard time and time again, that when I'm giving advice to one person, actually it's affecting and changing the life of other people who are also listening. So you might be the very person that becomes the catalyst to change somebody else's life. So it's not being selfish. This is not a selfish act. This is not, I don't want to steal anyone's time. I've already asked one question. I'm not sure, blah, blah. This is an opportunity for sharing. It really is. So I want to introduce you to my very, very good friend, Kat Knott. Say hello, Kat.
Hello, everybody. Thanks, Becky.
Now, Kat's going to do some housekeeping with you, because obviously while I'm kind of doing my thing, that was a lot of hand movements, kind of vogue. And when I'm doing my thing, I look quite good. While I'm doing my thing, obviously I can't really read your comments that are coming in. And we want your comments. We'd love your questions, love your comments. And you're going to be able to put your hand up to be able to ask direct questions. But I'm going to hand over to Kat to explain how that's all going to work.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is, anybody who wants to, don't be shy. We're going to be online for exactly an hour. So get your questions in. Don't all wait till the last 30 seconds of the call, because that's going to really just muck up everything. So what we want you to do is put your questions in the chat. Otherwise, there's a little button on the right-hand side where you can make a request to speak into the room. And yes, put your hand up. And I'll be keeping an eye on those while Becky's doing her thing. So what will happen is, if you put in a request, I'll access you there. You'll then actually have to go through a little process on your computer. It's not very complicated. You just follow a couple of steps and then you'll be back online, and you can ask your question live. So let's have a go. Let's get started. So if you're ready, Becky.
What? Am I what?
Are you ready? Are you listening?
I'm ready. Yes, I am. Yeah, I'm absolutely ready. So I know that we've got somebody who's just put up their hand, so that's kind of cool. So I think I'll let you do it, because you know what you're doing technically.
Get your fingers off. That's what I'm here for.
I have no control issues, not at all.
So just for everybody, we're just going to try and have as much fun as possible tonight. So if we have any technical hitches, what will happen is we are going to run one of these every month for foreseeable future. So we'll fix it next time. Okay. So we're just going
to please say that. I'm only going to be running this if I have a nice time tonight.
Okay. Okay, so we'll get started. No more ado. Okay, so we've had a few questions come in on email before the session tonight. So I'm going to read you one of those first. You can get cracking, and then I'm going to invite some people in on video. So the first question is from Emma. And Emma said, in your newsletter today, you said, start every day with an intention. Having a purpose or a mission for the day sets a task for my intuition to guide me toward that goal. Can you give me an example to be more organized, or to do a specific task, or achieve a certain thing, like I will be more assertive? Can you give me some ideas on what you mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really great question. Thank you for that, Emma. So I tend to find that most people, when they're wanting their intuition to work, it's almost like they're sort of like sending out a prayer in a sense, and it needs to be a little bit more directed. So it was funny, I went for a swim today and I wrote this because I read your question because you sent it to me directly, and this is something that I thought of while I was swimming. So intuition is a bit like a prayer. So, dear intuition, please show me what I need to guide me. Oh, there's Deanna. Hello. Please show me what I need to guide me into the best possible life. For thine is the smart ass, and I am the amoeba, forever and ever. Amen. And I think we have this way of kind of handing over our power to our intuition without guiding it. So I tend to, and I've been doing this for a while now, and it really works, that I'll lay in bed, because it's a really nice place to do this exercise. I'll lay in bed, and before I get out of bed, I really think about what I want to achieve in the day. So I think about, okay, so what's this day about? And sometimes it can be a theme, which is, how can I show up as an embodiment of love today? Or how can I show up as being the best aspect of myself? Or how can I show up, you know, in any other way? Or sometimes it might be like something very specific, like, how can I solve this particular problem that I've got? So how can I find a solution for the fact that my carpets need cleaning and I can't be bothered to do it? Or how can I find a solution? So by being really clear about what you want to get out of the day, be it something you want to feel all day, something that you want to serve, your service in the world, or a purpose, something that you want to fix in your own life, then that gets your intuition working. And then once your intuition's working, it's pretty much a case of following the breadcrumbs. So you've asked me for a very particular example. So I might lie in bed and go, okay, you know, I've got a live show coming up in April in London. What is going to be the best way for me to do some PR for that? How can I find a way to do that? So I might ask my intuition, show me an opportunity to be able to get the word out. Well, I just took one. Anyway, but show me an opportunity to be able to get the word out. And then obviously I might find that there's something on Facebook or there's something that I can tag into. It's just following those breadcrumbs that your intuition leaves for you to find the answer to that problem. Hope that helps, Emma.
Brilliant. Thanks ever so much, Becky. And as we saw there for a second, we've got, I believe Deanna's on here. If you want to stick your...
there she is.
Hello.
I just okay.
Popped up too prematurely, so I hid.
Oh no, don't hide. No, it's perfectly fine. So, hey Diana. So, how are you doing? Happy New Year, and thank you for being our first person. I really appreciate that, because it's
thank you for having me.
The first one.
Always a treat to speak to you, or hear from you. So hopefully that's going to stop any weird noise coming at your end, and it's going to be all good. But yeah, so I've been building a business teaching music. Music is my passion. I love it. I really like working with people. I really enjoy the sessions. And I've got to this point where my initial objective of being able to kind of cover my survival costs has been met, which is awesome. So I can get to the end of the month and I can pay the bills. Yay! And it's taken a long time to do that. But now I'm there because I'm probably motivated more by wanting to do an excellent job than by money. I'm completely not anti-money. I'm in favour of money, but I don't care enough about it really to get that excited by money on its own, even though I'd really like to be more comfortable. So I haven't got to this point in my business where I'm just about covering my costs. I can slightly feel myself almost having a bit of inner resistance to growing a bit more, and I think it's because I'm inclined to over-deliver, and I'm getting a bit rambly now.
No. I tell you where you're going with that. No, that's cool. I understand. I was like, okay, interjecting.
Yes.
This is about identity, and it's really interesting that I could hear when you were talking about that bit where you're saying, I've now reached the point where I'm financially stable and I'm not kind of every month going, oh God, but to actually get to that point where you're financially stable. I think that we have an identity as being someone who works hard and someone who's struggling and someone who's trying to work. And then when we actually make it work, then it's like, oh, hang on, new identity, professional, responsible, excellent, brilliant at what I do, you know, and now I am that, you know, person doing that role. And then we suddenly go, oh, heck, that feels like being a grown-up. I didn't anticipate that.
Yeah.
I think it's the identity shift that you're going through, and then you're looking to say, well, okay, well, now I'm at the professional business grown-up. I've never become a grown-up, always been an adult, that's fine, but grown-ups are boring. It's that next phase of going, okay, so what's after this, or is this comfortable for me? Because sometimes it's uncomfortable. It's a little bit how lottery winners sometimes get rid of the money really quickly because they've lost their identity as being someone who works hard and struggles. So it's a new costume that you need to put on. So what do you think?
I think that's exactly it. I feel like whilst I haven't had a terrible time or struggled compared to the struggles that some people experience, I have definitely had a mindset of feeling like had to work really hard to kind of like hang in there, and it was always a bit unstable. So the idea that I might be able to make a living and have time off like a normal person, and I don't know, I want that, but
do I
it is definitely
that?
I mean, there's all this, yeah, there's a few little things like that in there. Am I really allowed to not be working all the time? Is that okay? Yeah. And am I allowed to have time to do my own creative stuff, or do I only need to? So I just on this kind of threshold with all of that, and it's taken such a long time to get here. It's really interesting, stroke weird, to notice how I'm now a little bit like, oh, do I want to send out those 2,000 flyers? What am I going to do with 5 new students? Do I want to, you know, I don't want to like work even harder. How am I going to fit these new people in without getting more knackered? Which I know is completely the wrong perspective, because it's much harder to get the first 30 students than the next 30 in my business. And I could handle double the volume of students without it being double the volume of work, because all the work only needs to be done once. And I'm much more experienced. So I know all this stuff in reason, but I can feel myself being a bit like, ooh.
But also it's a different kind of work, because the work that you were doing before in terms of marketing, propagation, and I tell you, it takes a lot of work to panic every month about your rent. That's a lot of effort. But it seems easy because it's given to us rather than we have generated it. And when you've generated it, then there's that kind of like, well, I now am responsible. So what you're actually saying is, I'm frightened of the responsibility of this, and that I'm actually going to let somebody down because maybe I won't have the tenacity and the energy to actually be able to deliver what I have promised and what I've been promising I would do for all of this time to myself as well as to my new students. And I think, you know, you absolutely do have the energy to do it, because all of the energy that you had before went into panicking. And what's happening now is you're still thinking that you are the exhausted, panicked, overstretched person trying to make it work. And you've got that, and I'm now an overworked teacher. But actually, the reality of this is that is dropped, and you've just got this. So you are going to have absolutely the bandwidth to be able to have the capacity to be able to serve. But what I would suggest to you is to find a new archetype, because archetypally, the abandoned struggler, the struggling artist, is a very romantic archetype to carry around with you. The struggling artist.
I'm very happy to swap that for something else.
Oh God,
like,
yes.
So 2014, man.
So the next one is okay. So then what is the archetype that you would prefer? Is it the archetype of the experienced teacher? Is the archetype of the mentor? Is it the archetype of, you know, I don't know. So think of the archetype.
Yeah.
Visualize what that looks like. Sometimes I buy a jacket that is the jacket of that archetype, and I put it on if I'm stepping into a new role in my life. Archetype. Nice jacket.
This was my I'm a professional teacher jacket that I bought in September.
You see, you already knew it yourself. So you just put on your jacket, and then you're like, it's a costume, it's a uniform. And when you do that, you step into that archetype. And that archetype comes with it the energy, and it comes with it the professionalism. And then, quite frankly, you can take your jacket off, and I don't care if you kind of give your backside a bit of an itch, crack open a beer, and watch some telly. You know, I don't care, because you only have to be that when you're being that, and then the rest of the time you can go into any other archetype you like that is natural for you. You know, you can just be actually yourself without an archetype at all, whatever that is.
Well, I think that's really helpful. I'm sure there are lots of other people who have questions, but partly, and one of the reasons I found that helpful is because aside from genuinely feeling like this teaching is something I really want to do, and I think I can help people, and it's in alignment with what I'm good at, I also have my own creative output, and I don't want to sacrifice that. So this idea of there being more than one archetype, and I don't have to abandon that and be this, is very helpful in how I'm going to think about making sure that bit doesn't get starved. Oh, I'm doing the hands now because because I can't. They're part of the same thing. If I don't fulfill myself in any way creatively, then it's a bit empty words when I'm teaching my songwriting courses or whatever and telling people that they need to go out and find their stuff if I'm not actually doing it myself.
Brilliant stuff, and I love the way that you kind of like da-da, because it's kind of like very performer-esque, isn't it? Yes.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you ever so much, Leanna. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Kat,
bye for now.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Deanna. Thank you.
My pleasure.
We're back to Becky, and just that idea of having a costume or a jacket that you can put on and off has really resonated with a few people in the chat room there. So you were absolutely right when answering a question for one person has answered it for a lot of people as well. So
and can I highly recommend sexy pants as well? It doesn't have to be a jacket. You can have particular underwear.
Okay, and on that point, moving on to the next question, because we're going to move really quickly and get as many questions in as we can. So another one that came in on the email is this came in from Prague, believe it or not. My question is about relationships. I'm 32 and single, and I just don't meet men that I feel attracted to or would want a relationship with. How do I attract the right one?
Well, I think it's a really difficult one, that sort of finding something that you're attracted to, and I think it's quite often we'll end up with a bit of a protective, narrow bandwidth about what we find attractive in people. And I also think that sometimes as women we fall into this category, and again, this is a mass generalisation, so I do apologise for that, but I have found that this particular generation, we are asking men to be more like women than men. And, and I'm not saying this is specifically true of you, but it seems to me that we want them to be able to appreciate our shoes and to be able to be in touch with their feelings, and yet at the same time have that kind of masculine presence that can grab hold of the back of our hair, kiss us hard, and then thrust us upon the bed. And it's too much to ask, in a way, of anyone to be able to play all of those different archetypes, because it's just a lot. And I think that part of the women's liberation movement, was a liberation for women to fall into a masculine instead of falling into an empowered feminine, which is quite unfortunate. And so I'd sort of say, when we think about writing a list of all of the characteristics and the things that we want from a man, just drop the whole thing and look for one thing. Who is it that makes you love yourself when you're in their company? So not someone you love, but someone who makes you love you. Because people change and they become different and they have different needs, and somebody may be going through a really terrible time or having something that they're struggling with. But how someone makes you feel about you tends to not change. It tends to be something fundamental. It's almost like a soul-to-soul kind of thing. And the people that I really enjoy having in my life, and not just the qualities that I like in them, which is somebody that I admire, someone who's this or that or the other, but someone who has a capacity to be able to see me, really see me and really listen, and is able to kind of like just be present and makes me feel like I'm worthy and I'm fun to be around and I'm interesting. And I'm so, rather than looking at them and who they are and what they're like, look at how you shine in their company and look at what makes you thrive in their presence. And I mean, I know it sounds to me like you're kind of at the moment in a goldfish bowl, and all of the men are outside of this goldfish bowl, but very kind of, Marcel. And all of this world is going on outside of the goldfish bowl, and from your goldfish bowl you can't see anybody. So sometimes curiosity breaks the goldfish bowl, just to be curious. I was talking about this the other night. about how a little bit in London, there's a comedian that has this joke about going down the escalators in London, and he goes, idiot, 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 idiot. Oh, she's nice. Idiot, idiot, idiot. And I think sometimes our self-protected self looks for what's wrong in everybody else. We just look for what's wrong. So by becoming curious with an open heart, you open your heart-led intuition instead of your gut intuition. Your gut will tell you everyone's wrong for you. Your heart will tell you, oh, curious, there's an aspect of this person that's fascinating. Maybe not all of this person, but we start to get an opening of what we like rather than what we want to avoid. That crashes that goldfish bowl of there's the outside world and then there's me. And then by sensing how we feel in somebody else's company, start with the person that you're buying a cappuccino from. You know, start with the person who's serving you in a shop. It doesn't have to be on a dating site. It doesn't have to be speed dating. It doesn't have to be even relationships. It can be about, you know, a woman that you meet. How do they make you feel? Who makes you shine? Start to see when you shine, and then you'll start to see who makes a good partner for you.
Brilliant, thanks Becky. So I'm just going to bring one in from the chat if that's okay. So we're just going to stay on relationships just for a moment, but Leslie has actually put in the comments here that it's so true what you've been saying, that she wasn't looking for love but ended up marrying the man who made me feel most like myself. Isn't that lovely? Absolutely
it's so
right.
True. It really is. That's the one thing that works, is the person who makes you like yourself the most is the person that you can probably spend the rest of your life with.
Absolutely. So Helen's put in the chat here a comment. I'm going to try and read it out. Apologise for falling over my words. I keep getting hurt in relationships. Recently I got badly hurt by a very close male friend who, I thought for very good reasons, believed had feelings for me, and I started to have feelings for him too. We'd been good friends for 3 years. I was just about to talk to him in the situation and say I had feelings for him when he started seeing somebody else. I was gutted. Bumped into him and was very cold with him. No contact since early November. This seems to be the story of my life with men. Now I seem to have lost the friendship, let alone anything else. Any advice for Helen?
It's really hard for them to be able to keep friends, you know, when they've met somebody else, especially if there was something, but it was never completely, you know, it was kind of like the undercurrent. And I tend to think, that a guy needs probably a lot more encouragement than we realise. You know, that theory of he's just not that into you. If he was into you, then he would be making a play for you. I don't think it's true for all men, and I think it's really hard. And I think that the important thing to take from this is that vulnerability, it leads to courage. You know, when you feel vulnerable about kind of like just saying to somebody that you like them, you know, do you know, this is really kind of crazy, but we seem to live in a world, and I do blame soap operas for this, where it seems to be so much easier to turn around and call someone an arsehole than it is to say I love you, than it is to say, my God, you're brilliant. And there's a lady who works for my publisher, Hay House, she's called Jo, and she gave me a hug one day and she just said, I love you, and it froze me. Because I just like went, and my head flashed through all of this stuff, like, well, what does she mean? You know, what is it? And I honestly didn't understand in that moment what the words I love you mean, because I needed to put them into a qualification of what she meant by that. And then I suddenly thought, actually, there's so many times I feel I love you in a conversation, but I don't say it because I think, well, if I say I love you, then there's going to be a contract of some kind. If I say, then I'm going to have to make a commitment of loving you tomorrow or in 10 minutes' time. And I probably won't, because I'll be thinking about something else. And it's something I've always said about my clients. For the hour that I'm with my clients, I'm completely in love with them, absolutely love them. If I haven't fallen in love with my client in the first 5 minutes, I just say, look, we can't work together, because that love is really important. And people say, oh, you know, you need to protect yourself and put in boundaries and all the rest of it. Well, the boundary comes when that client leaves. That's it. You know, the love connection has gone, and that's simple enough. But we love on multiple ways of loving and attraction, and I think that we really need to stand in our vulnerability, which leads to our courage, because to love is to be vulnerable. To stand into courage is to declare it. And I don't mean that we have to just say, you know, I love you, to somebody that you fancy, because some people can kind of go, whoa, that's too much, too fast, too soon. But just to say, I'm really curious about you. I think you're extraordinary. Just something is just better than hoping to God they're going to get the hint, because we look at them for a little bit too long. And then when they realise that we've been staring at them for too long, we suddenly do that looking away thing. I wasn't really looking at you at all. So I think the thing here is not the question to really analyse this particular relationship, but to analyse in yourself, where are you scared of vulnerability, and where can you find the courage to heal that? I hope that helps.
Brilliant, thanks Becky. So we've got another one that's come in on email here, and this one's from Joe. 2015 has been one of the worst and most difficult I've ever had to deal with. I wondered how I could best manage the ongoing emotional and practical issues. The 2015 difficulties have been related to relationships and career.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, when everything kind of like comes at you at once, and then you just end up kind of like going, this has been a kind of like catastrophically really bad year. And I think try not to quantify this year's been a really bad year, and in a sense try and mark it as being such. You can say this year has been a year of growth. There's the word AFGO, another effing growth opportunity. So it's like AFGO. So in a sense you could say that was the year of AFGO. And it's quite cute to give it a name, because even though it's painful and all the rest of it, by saying it's another growth opportunity, you're giving the opportunity for 2016 to be the year where the realizations and the learning and the growth that took place in 2015 to actually come into fruition and be bloody useful and make you become the person that you want to be. I can promise you that every single time I have gone through something awful, it has been the making of me. And you have a choice, and it is a choice, that you get to decide if something is going to be the making of you or the end of you. But it is a choice. Most things in life is just about what we make them mean, not what happened. Whatever it is that you're going to make it mean. So you've already made it mean that 2015 was a really bad year. Turn that around and make it a year of learning, and make this a year of, I'm trying to think of the right word. If you were learning, then you are graduated. So this is your alumni year. This is where you take the learning and you find a way to put it into practical terms, so that we can say either I won't do that again, or I'm choosing something new. So this is now the year that you can actually take the strength, and it, believe me, I know, Joe, that you have had to be extremely strong. But you didn't know you had that in you, did you? But you did. And look at what what you're capable of. I mean, look at you. You didn't know that you were capable of what you're capable of. You didn't know in 2014 of your capacity. You've got it now. You know your capacity. And that's remarkable in itself. So rather than look at what breaks you, look at what has made you, and take that forward into the new year. Super important.
Okay, so I'm going to just link into something that's kind of on the same track, and this came in on email again. A question: are some people born under unlucky stars?
I'm not very good with astrology. I actually went to go and see an astrologist in India, and he said it wasn't in my stars to ever be married or live with anyone. I was like, yeah. And I think so. That's a very lovely curse you've just laid on me. Thank you ever so much. Because I think future predictions like that act as a curse, because then I'm going to manifest. If I was stupid enough to believe what he said, I'm going to manifest that. That's just ridiculous. Anyway, moving on. I don't think so, but I do think that I believe in multiple lifetimes, and I believe that sometimes in a lifetime we choose, and we might say, right, I am not coming back again. Just pile it on all in this lifetime, because I am not coming back again. So whatever it is that I haven't learnt, pile it all into this lifetime, and let me just wade my way through it, because I'm not coming back. So just give it all at once. So I think that sometimes we can make those choices, but if that's a choice, then that's a contract, and that's a contract that you have made before you were born. And I do believe that you can change your contract. I believe if you change your contract, the repercussions are that you have to perhaps come back and do those things again. So you might be like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. So I think It's what I call the pre-birth questionnaire. So what you can do is literally, and I did this in my own life, I decided that I wanted to help people and, you know, do what I'm doing now, but professionally, I didn't want it in my relationship life, and I didn't want it in my close friendship circles. So I literally rewrote my contract and said, right, because it was everywhere. It was in every aspect of my life. So I just literally on a piece of paper rewrote the contract and said, I am willing to show up as this, you know, I talk very much in archetypes, but I'm willing to show up as the, you know, the healer archetype or the coach archetype or the teacher archetype within my professional environment, but within this small remit of my personal life. Oh, and at the bus stop, and at the cafe shop, and at, you know, but within my personal life, I retract that offering. So find a way to basically be able to say, you know, this is too strong for me, and in this lifetime I want to be able to have more support, more love, more, you know, I'm willing to do this stuff, but I have needs, and my need is a support. I want a support network. I need an understanding partner. I need more financial backing, so that you're diluting the intensity of whatever it is that is your learning process at the moment. That will really help. That stuff's really powerful. The power behind your intention, and you say clearly, this is what I want. And the universe is not out to punish you, you know, when we say the universe, but you know what I mean, you know, this is not an unfriendly universe. So ask for what you want and it will show up. Not, you know, Ferraris and stuff like The Secret, but you say what you can handle and it will be delivered to you. I promise you that. It's happened in my life. It's absolutely true.
There's a question in the chat here from Astrid. Which says, how would be the best way to write our objectives for this year? Which I think links on to what you've just been saying.
Yes, it does. I think with your objectives, I think that there's a few ways, and I think I've just actually sent out something about this in the newsletter as well. So have a little look at that, because we were looking at about productivity and your psychology, and so I think you're on my mailing list, but if you're not, then send me an email and I'll send that to you, because I did actually kind of like put that in the newsletter about how to be able to break that down. That went out this morning. So I think it's very easy to give yourself a bunch load of really hard tasks, like you know, this year I'm going to, I don't know, lose weight, climb Everest, start my own business, write a book, blah blah blah. But I also think make sure that you put in there things that make you happy. And if all of that stuff makes you happy, that's great. But just make sure that you put in things that make you happy. And at the end of the thing, I'm going to treat you with something that I read earlier today, and I think that you'll find that really interesting. So make sure that you're on the end of the call, because I think that you'll be like, duh, yeah, that's so true. So, but I'll deliver that at the end of the call, because it's quite a sweet thing to end with.
Thanks, Becky. So a question here from Anna. When I have the occasional but big argument with people, well, husband or dad, actually, I feel compelled to run away and threaten to leave. It's not that I want to, it's that I feel I have no other choice. Any advice, please?
That's an archetypal reaction. So it's funny, I suddenly realised that a lot, you know, that when we have an inner child, we can have different archetypal inner childs. So you might have the wounded child, or the abandoned orphan, or, you know, so that desire to run away and kind of, in a sense, slam the door is your inner child kind of like having a reaction of kind of, you know, you're not listening to me, so look at me as I'm not here. Because when we make like a sharp exit like that, we want to be found. So that is the runaway child. We want to be found by not being there. So what you're saying is you're not listening to me and you don't see me. So I'm going to disappear so that you will look for me and I will be found and I will be listened to. So that's the desire. You don't feel like they're thoroughly listening to you. And that can be one of two reasons. One is they really aren't listening to you. The second one is they are listening to you, they just don't agree with you. And you think that they can't be listening to you, because if they were listening to you, well, they bloody agree with you. So I think that's your inner child that's saying, see me, you don't see me. So I think that you need to find a way for your grown-up to ask to be seen. So we need to find an archetype, and maybe a jacket or a new pair of pants, jacket. You need to be able to find an archetype that you can step into where you can say, I don't feel you two can hear me. And it might be, if they're doing it together at the same time or individually, it just might be, I don't feel you're really hearing what I'm saying. So I want you to stop thinking about your reply, and I want you to listen to my words. Because if I feel that you really hear me, but you still disagree, then I'm just going to live with that. But while I feel you're not listening to me, I just feel I have to keep saying it and keep saying it and keep saying it. And the more I say it, the more deaf you get, and the more I feel ignored, and the more I want to run away. That makes sense? I hope it makes sense. Let me know if that makes sense.
Brilliant, thanks, Becky. So there's a question come in on the chat again. So please keep sending in your chats. Everybody who's listening, you just have to write them in the chat. And
be brave. You can also put up your finger, and you can do it audibly. You don't have to do it on video, but it would be good to see you. It really would.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, one from Carolyn. My new year started by being made redundant. How do I remain positive?
I think God, I mean, you just think, companies, what are you thinking? Like, to start a new year making people redundant, it's just rude. It just feels rude, doesn't it? Hopefully you got a payout, which is good. I think the way to feel positive is to understand that redundancy has got nothing to do with you, so it's not about you. And actually, it usually gives you the opportunity to really take stock and think about what it is that you want to do. If you're honest, I would say this to you, intuitively, I think you really wanted to quit that job about 6 months ago. So I would say you were already thinking about what you wanted to do next. But you kind of went, oh, yeah, no, well, it's all right. And then you started talking yourself into staying. So I think you already had this kind of like, is there more to me than this? And actually, I think if there was a title for this redundancy, it would be There Is More to You Than This. And we're going to have to pull the rug out from underneath you so that you're going to find it. And now your job is to find the more to you than this. And I'm going to set that to you as a task. What else, what other talents, what things are you not seeing in yourself? Now, I'm also going to do a kindness, which is I have an online course called Your One Big Calling, and it's all about finding out what it is that you are meant to be doing with your life. And I'm going to get Kat to write down your name, and I want you to send me an email, and I'm going to put you on that course for free. This isn't everyone listening, by the way. I'm kind, but I'm, not that kind. So I won't send you a link to the course, but you can find it on my website. It's called The One Big Calling. And the course is all about trying to find out what is your niche, what is it that you were born to do? What is the thing that you're going to wake up in the morning and just go, oh my God, it's so cool to be me? And so I invite you to come on that course and really answer that question, because I think that's what the redundancy has all been about, is there's more to me than this. So I invite you as my guest to come on my online course and figure that out for yourself, and then you'll probably find that you actually end up doing something really completely amazing, perhaps something that you never even thought you could do, perhaps something that, it's just right up your street. I feel like you fell into things, and I have a feeling that it's now time for you to choose. And choosing is scary because we worry about getting it wrong, but choosing is better than meandering our way through life, not really living our true vavavoom, best way of putting it. Okay, hope that helps. Well, it will help. I'm telling you, it'll help. Good.
She's very, very grateful. She said, thank you very much, and commented almost immediately that, oh my goodness, that's true. So, bang on there, Becky. And also, Sylvie has put a quick message up about the course, saying that it's very, very good, and the One Big Calling is changing her life. Brilliant.
I'm really pleased, and thank you for that endorsement, Sylvie. I'm really chuffed. Thank you.
Brilliant. A question came in on email. It's quite a long. I'm actually just going to read a couple of paragraphs, so hope this makes sense to you. I did my vision board for 2016. 5 things were studying for certification in 2 things, being with family and friends, doing sports, relaxing, opening to intuition, and money and abundance. When can I have time and energy to work on making money for my studies?
The old time chestnut. I personally don't think that time is linear, and I'm going to prove that to you in this way, which is, if you're clock watching, you know, I've had jobs where I've clock watched, and you kind of like, you're looking at the clock and it feels like you go, oh, well, that's been an hour. You look at the clock and it's been 5 minutes and you're like, I can't believe it. What's wrong with the clock? Someone find the batteries. So that's really tough. So that can happen. And then when you're doing something you love, it's like the afternoon, the day, the moment, it just goes by so quickly. So time really is a perception. And so actually you can shrink time and stretch time by making a decision about it. So when you first start doing this, you might think I've gone completely bonkers here. So test this, because I just don't believe the bonkers woman. Test the bonkers woman. So I quite often, how I started this was, I'd look at my watch and I'd kind of like go, okay, so the hands on my watch, and I'd imagine if I wanted to shrink time, kind of like that the time was getting tighter and tighter, and I'd imagine it shrinking, kind of like one side of the time that I wanted to go quicker. And I'd find that time would actually go quicker. And then other times, if I actually needed more time, I'd stretch it. And so when I've been working with clients, I've had clients say, really, you know, I feel like I've been in here hours, haven't we overrun? And it's simply been because I knew we needed more time, and somehow we've stretched the time in the conversation. And so, in a way, you can make a decision about how fast you can get things done. And you might not realise it, but you can make a decision about how fast you get things done. But if you have a perception of, I don't have enough time, 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 you're naturally going to be shrinking your time. And you're naturally going to be looking at what you don't have, and the perception of your day is going to be shorter. If you think, I've got all the time in the world, and I'm going to fit loads of things into this time, you'll actually get loads done. And I certainly know when I've been writing, sometimes I wake up at 3:30 in the morning and write for 2 hours and then go back to sleep, and I'm not exhausted the next day, because I've been doing something that in a sense is giving food and energy to my soul. And when you're doing soul work and you're giving food and energy to your soul, you have so much more energy and vibrancy. So you're not slugging through the jobs that you don't want to do, where you're dragging your feet and therefore dragging time behind you, and everything feels horrifically exhausting. And then I think some days, when you've got habits and routines, rituals that you do, change your rituals up. So it might be that, you know, in the morning you do like half an hour of yoga and you make a green drink and you do this thing, do that thing, and then you spend an hour with the dog. Okay, so that might be Monday you do that, but Tuesday you don't do that. It might be that you go and buy a green drink and you have that in the fridge, or you make the green drink that's going to last 2 days and you shove it in the freezer, even though you know it won't be quite as good, but you're going to be able to spend half an hour doing some study or half an hour doing something else. So just try and stretch your time a little bit. That would be a good thing to do.
Brilliant. So here's a challenge for you, Becky. Do you think you can answer 2 questions at the same time?
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay, because I think they're both about the same sort of thing. So we've had a question in the chat from James that says, what's the best way to get out of my own way? To go with the flow and let it be, allow the universe to do its thing. And then we've also had one through from Roberta, who is preambling along, lost and disconnected, can't commit to one thing but feel desperate to just get on with it. How does she lock into the right thing and trust it? So I think they're probably both along the same sort of lines, but
yeah, so it's like, it's a little bit about Roberta getting out of her own way as well, and it's just all of those kinds of things. This is a lack of clarity. You're actually asking, both of you are actually asking this, WTF? No, yes, WTF, what the? Where you're just kind of going, and it's that prayer to the universe or prayer to your intuition, where you're kind of like going, there must be some big thing, something, and I'm just getting in my own way, and I'm self-sabotaging, and I'm, you know, because otherwise it would have happened and it would be here, and I would be feeling vitality, and I would be living a life that is vital and full of vitality and full of spirit and full of excitement. And I'm not. I'm trying to find that thing. And I think that the idea that you're kind of getting in your own way of that thing being just there is the fact that you're just not really clear on what that thing is. So if you were clear on what that thing was, you'd start living at altitude. So what I mean by, and this is a bit Caroline Myss, but living at altitude is this sort of thing where there is something that is greater and more powerful and more tangible and more meaningful in your life than you. There is something that you desire so much that you get out of your own way because you just don't feel as important as this thing. And when you're clear on what that thing is, it's the apples, and it's the apple tree. It's the you just want to produce apples, and you don't care if they fall on the ground and get covered in maggots, or if they, are eaten by people, or if people want them, if they get squished into cider. You don't care, because all you want to do is that particular thing, and that's what you're calling for. You're saying, what is it? And I think how you're getting in your own way is, even if you get very close to knowing what it is, the brain comes in and goes, well, that's your ego talking. That's your ego talking. Because we often, when our heart is talking, our ego tells us that it's our ego, when actually it's our heart. So I think that the thing to do is to get out of your own way is to spend a little bit more time in silence. Or in my case, it's time in the swimming pool, it's time dancing, it's time walking the dog. And the insights come when we're not screaming for them, because we're silent enough to receive them. You can't go out and get them. They have to be received. And I think that all you're really looking for is a bit of clarity on what is the thing that makes me feel alive? What is the thing that makes me feel most vibrant? And when you find that, then it becomes like such an energetic pull that you're never in your own way, because you're living at altitude. That makes sense. I know it's kind of a little bit, I know I'm talking an awful lot in metaphor there. I think metaphor is sometimes a really powerful tool, because you can't really talk in fact when it comes to feeling something. Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully actually that has answered the question for Chris as well, who said, how do you resolve the fear that turns into procrastination? So you're actually doing loads of people's questions all at the same time.
It's amazing how that happens. The other thing I would say about, I love it. The one thing I would say about procrastination is sometimes procrastination is very positive, because sometimes procrastination is telling you something, and sometimes it's just telling you you're scared, and that's why you're not doing it, because you're frightened. Well, that's still telling you something important. And fear can be because you're not ready. And you've got to literally ask, because we live in this world where we believe that we feel fear, just ignore it and push on through, oh, I'm procrastinating. That's because you're scared. Push on through. Just do it anyway. Actually, procrastination could be your intuition's way of saying, not now. This isn't the right time. You need to wait. All of the things are not in alignment. And if you push through, you won't get what it is that you want. You won't get the fullness of it. It won't flow with ease. So when you feel procrastination, become curious and go, okay, curiosity opens your heart-led intuition. And then you can go, am I procrastinating because I'm not ready? Or am I procrastinating because I'm fearful? And has that fear got a point? And so quite often when I procrastinate, if I actually just go, all right, I'm just not going to do this. I'm not going to beat myself up. I'm not going to do it. Suddenly it comes to me in such a divine and brilliant way that if I'd have actually been going for it when I was like, I must do this, I'd have probably knocked it sideways and left it in a spin. But by stopping, it was an effortless receiving of the thing I needed to get. So I think just allow procrastination. If you become curious and there's no sticky, icky feeling, it's telling you to wait. If you become curious and there's sticky, icky, it's telling you you're scared, then tune into the fear. And if the fear is just basically saying, you're just not ready, then the steps that you need to take in order to get ready before you just plow into something. And because you don't want to fall on your face, you don't want to plow into something and actually discover that you're completely not ready. I had this with a radio show that I wanted, and if I'd have got it when I wanted it, I think I probably would have had a breakdown, because I wouldn't have been able to cope with the backlash of negativity that I got. There was so much jealousy, there was so much kind of negativity, you know, I wouldn't have been able to cope. I had to learn to not care in order to be able to do that job really well. Otherwise, the stuff that you read on, you know, all of the negative things that people put on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, and we didn't even have an awful lot of social media at that time, would have destroyed me, because I wanted to be liked. And when I let go of that, I was free to be able to actually do a job fully. So just be aware that there may be some things in your psychology, like the need to be liked, that makes it not quite the right time, that those things need dealing with first. This is also something that happens with the law of attraction. The law of attraction will not just give you what you're attracting, it will give you all of the things that you need, all the shit things that you need to go through to make yourself ready to receive the thing that you're begging for. So this is sometimes why we have really crap years, like Joe was talking about that really awful year. Because the one thing that we're trying to manifest, we're not ready for. And unless we actually go through the school of hard knocks that takes off our sharp edges, that sands us down, that makes us have resilience and courage and all of those juicy things, and then we get given it and we're ready for it. But if we get given it and it's too soon, and our dream kills us, our dream makes us hate ourselves, that's the biggest curse I can think of. And I don't think the world does that to you. I think the world sharpens you and makes you ready to stab through into the right thing at the right time. As frustrating as it is, I'd still want that mansion. Can't understand why I haven't got it yet. And the Ferrari, for God's sake. Okay, I'm really kidding.
No, very, very good. So a couple more questions. We've only got 10 minutes left, so we're going to have to run through really quickly, okay? So a question came through on email earlier on from Linda. How to preserve a loving relationship with a grown son when his partner is doing her best to sabotage it deliberately and unconsciously in every way she can. How to set boundaries, preserve one's self-esteem, remain open and yet protected, and so on.
That relationship between kind of like, you know, the mother and the daughter-in-law or the girlfriend or whatever is so hard, because the relation, they always say, what was that saying? I think the saying is your daughter is for life and your son is for the wife. Sorry to say that. I think it's a really, really difficult one, because I don't believe that she consciously believes that she's doing any of that. I think she feels that she's somehow defending herself. Now, whether or not that's true or not, there is a meekness about her, that she portrays this meekness. So she portrays herself in a sense as being slightly more vulnerable than she probably is. And I think that what you need to do in a way is to surrender, not engage. So it's really, really hard. But when we log ahead with people and we kind of do this kind of thing, the way to actually show your son who she is or how she's behaving is for you not to get into that with her, but literally to step back. So if you kind of like step back and she carries on pushing, then I think, you know, I mean, I don't believe in future predictions, but I think that, you know, this could take a couple of years. A couple of years will change their relationship with each other, because relationships certainly change fundamentally within 2 years. It doesn't mean you back out of his life, but I just think that you understand that there is no way on earth your son is not going to be part of your life. There is no way that she is going to come in and put a wedge in between the two of you. And I know that that is your deepest fear. And that is not going to happen, because he just would not let that happen. He's not that kind of person. He's not stupid. He's not naive. He's actually highly intuitive and a very smart person. He just doesn't want to be put in between the middle of you two. He doesn't want to have to choose. He doesn't want to deal with it, so he's denying it's happening. But if you just basically go, okay, so I'm just going to stand back a little bit so that I'm not in this tug of love, it will settle. And then you might find that there is a way in which you can have a relationship with her. There's something that she has, like, that in a way is kind of, you know, it's a really weird way of saying this, because you might be shocked by it as I say it. So please go away and think about this. but there is an aspect of her that you would admire if you found it in somebody else. So there's an aspect of her that is quite admirable, and I want you to look for it, because when you find that aspect of her, it's something that you don't possess, that you need to be a little bit more like yourself, but perhaps not to the extent that she's like it. If you could find that one thing in her that you admire and cultivate it in your mind as an admirable quality, good luck, but cultivate it in your mind as an admirable quality and start sending it love, just that aspect of her, because energetically you'll start turning this around so that she's not seeing you as being the aggressor, whether that's true or not. Everyone has different versions of reality. If she can stop seeing you as being the aggressor and feel that sense, because believe me, we are connected in so many different levels that we can sense how people feel about us, even when they're not even in the room, not even in the country. You can turn this around by finding that admirable quality, focusing on that, just separate from her. You don't even need to tell her that, and see how that starts to change the relationship. But I think it might take a couple of years, but I think if you do those things, it might be quicker than that. You can turn this around. You've been here before. This is not your first rodeo. You've been here before in work environments. This is not the first time this has happened to you, and you dealt with it really well last time. You can do this again. It's just the fact that the stakes are higher this time, which is making you more scared, understandably so. Hope that helps. Give me some feedback on that. I'd like to hear.
What you've actually said about surrendering and not engaging has actually triggered a few people in the chat as well, Becky. Leslie has said surrender, not engage, has nudged me about something at work. So it works across all spectrums.
Good. Yes, it does. It really does. And, you know, I mean, I've been bullied so many times in different jobs, and I found that the only thing that has ever worked was having a damn good sense of humour about the whole thing, which made me surrender, because as soon as I started to find it very funny, because it is funny, really, when we think about it, it's bloody hilarious. Human beings are pathetically hilarious. And when I found it funny, I just stopped making it about, you know, cluck, 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 you know, it's like, all right, chicken, just calm down, stop clucking. And it's just because it is quite funny. It's just a bunch of headless chickens running around having a peck at each other, which is difficult without a head.
Absolutely. And on that point, a question came in on email. What if your reasoning and your intelligence or your head is telling you one thing and your body is telling you quite the opposite? How can you trust that your body is telling you the right thing?
I'm very into somatic intuition, because I really believe that your body knows. So your body literally will tip forward to things that's good for it and tip away from things that are bad for it. And I think it's really important to have a crossover between your heart and your head. You know, so it's like if your heart and your physical self is saying, yes, you need to do this, but your head is saying, run away, you know, or, you know, I think it's a case of really balancing out the two. So let's draw a compromise, which is, you know, so my whole body and my entire being wanted to move to San Francisco, but I wasn't just going to kind of like move over there on a 3-month visa. I hope within 3 months I'd meet a man and marry him and then spend the rest of my life writing my memoirs on a beach. No, I had to wait. I had to work out how to do it. So I decided to become a student. I had to work out how to finance that. All of those things. It didn't matter how much my body was going, let's go to San Francisco, that'll be cool. It doesn't understand visas. It doesn't understand money. It doesn't understand practicalities. It just gets excited about something and wants to move towards it. Or it gets fearful and wants to move away. And that's the difference between your heart-led intuition and your gut-led intuition. As I talk about in my book, you do know learn to act on intuition instantly. So I think the thing is to rationalize with a contingency plan to make what your body is telling you true. So what's the contingency plan? So if your body is saying, I really need to sleep with that person who's 25 years younger than me, there may be a practical element of that. If you're looking for a long-term partner, that might not be really what you're wanting to do. So then you become curious about what your body is saying and say, well, what are you really trying to tell me? Is there some other way we can achieve what it is? Because sometimes your body is saying, go and do this thing, the results will be you will learn XYZ. Well, is there a different way to learn XYZ without doing the thing that perhaps is really going to put your world in jeopardy, your life in jeopardy, or your finances in jeopardy, or your kids in jeopardy, or, you know, and sometimes it's a case of sort of going, okay, because I do believe in kind of, following your heart, running with it. Take your brain with you. Definitely take your brain.
Excellent. Have we got time for one more quick question, Becky?
Yes, we do. And then I'm going to read you my little thing. So yes.
Okay. So one very, very quick one, which I think will be a great one to finish on. Hi, Becky. I've been divorced for many years after a very difficult sham of a marriage. I have a nice male friend who I half-heartedly dated last year. I've been giving it a bit of thought again, though, and wondering, do you see me going back into this? The combination is quite good, but I was not drawn to him sexually. I would like to think, a young 57-year-old. Today is a very sad day for me, as I've just got some very bad news on my mother.
The fact that you're not attracted to him sexually, big alarm bells. And if it was going to work out before, to be able to be in a relationship with somebody that you didn't fancy, it sounds to me like you've got a really good best mate. And it sounds to me like if you've got a best mate that fancies you, and then you think, well, he's a best mate, I should fancy him, I should be attracted to him, so I should. And then obviously if you've got stuff that's actually going on with your family and the bad news about your mum, it's really easy to go, here's a safe harbour with someone who can take care of me, and this person can love me because they like me and blah blah blah, and I can put up with having sex with them, I guess, and blah blah blah. No. This is just you going up. This solves a problem. But in actual fact, you've got to take responsibility for him. He's going to get hurt. Because can you imagine what it would be like to be in a relationship with somebody who doesn't fancy you? Like he doesn't want to be with you in that way. That is actually, in a sense, using you because you're a great friend that is going to give them the emotional needs that they've got, because they've suddenly realized they don't want to be alone, and you don't want to be by yourself dealing with whatever it is that you've got going on with your mum. And you kind of go, well, I'll make him happy in some ways, and that might be enough, but it's not going to be enough, and it would just in the end just feel kind of icky and a bit hurtful. So I think the thing to do is, and I think, and also with the fact that you've actually mentioned your age, it's that, well, there's not that many opportunities, and maybe at this point in my life, nonsense, absolute nonsense. And the fact that when you're saying kind of like I'm a young 57-year-old, we should just be ageless. Like, let's just drop the age thing completely. I've dropped it. Just forget it, because it's really about, how we look up at the top of buildings and the skyline and the tops of trees and not looking at cracks in the pavement and worrying about sciatica. So God, it really, I do believe that we can consciously age ourselves or consciously unage ourselves. And I have been able to make myself look younger just through thinking about it. In fact, I've managed to repair some of my eyes. I've only got two. I've managed to actually repair my eyes. Proper eye test, eyes have improved. Vision didn't improve but didn't get worse, but the quality of my eyes improved over a 3-year period from one eye test to the other. So we don't have to age in the way that we believe that we get decrepit and old from day to day. I just don't believe that that's the case. I really am quite into epigenetics and the belief that our thoughts and the signals that we send our body and the toxins and all of that actually create our reality. Anyway, I've gone slightly off the topic. Please don't date this guy, and please don't give your power away to people by saying, do you see me dating this guy? Do you want to date this guy? I'm hearing no. I'm hearing you don't. So don't date him. Tell him that you really need his support. Ask him to be there for you. Say that it can't be romantically, but don't fall back into something that your heart's not fully into. It's just not fair, in the vague hope that your heart might get into it later and you might eventually fancy him, because if it's not there in the first place, it doesn't suddenly come. It's got to be there in the first place. It can, it can, love can, and then we have a sexual connection because we loved someone, but the fancying doesn't. And to be honest, this is possibly too much to tell you, I think you're quite sexy. No, sorry, but I think you're quite a sexual person, and I don't want you to miss out on that. I don't want you to miss out on that aspect of life. You know, just by making do. Anyway, probably being too personal there. Sorry. So hopefully that helps. And good luck with your mum. And I think that this is actually quite a beautiful time. Perhaps there's some stuff that can be made very beautiful between you and your mum at the moment. I think look for the beauty in a connection with you and your mum. I think that would be really good. I think that's probably the first thing that you really need to be dealing with. And I think that just understand that you're looking for a safe harbour, but you're not in a stormy sea. It's not as rough as you think it is, and I promise you're not drowning.
So it's over to the greyhound, I think.
It's over to the greyhound. Now, I was gonna use my dog for this, but she's so fast asleep, I'm not going to do it. So thank you, first of all, thank you ever so much for everyone who's taken part in the call. Thank you so much for all of your questions. I really appreciate it. I got this, I read this morning. It was in the bigger piece that Michael Neal wrote. Michael Neal's a super coach. He's absolutely brilliant. And if you want to know more about Michael Neal, we've made some films together that are on my YouTube channel. So if you go to, I think it's YouTube, Becky Walsh Stand Up Intuitive, I think is the thing. But please go and subscribe on my YouTube channel. That would be absolutely excellent if you wanted to do that. But this is something that I read that he wrote this morning. It was originally accredited to Reverend Fred Craddock. Brilliant name, Craddock. Anyway, but I just thought that this is quite brilliant for the new year. I think it's quite interesting. This is a story of a conversation between a man and a greyhound, and it's pretty cool. I said to the dog, "Are you still racing?" "No," he replied. "Well, what was the matter? Did you get too old to race?" "No, I still have some race in me." "Well, then what? Did you not win?" "No, I won over $1 million for my owner." "Well, what was it then? Was it bad treatment?" "Oh, no. No, they treated us really royally when we were racing." "Well, did you get crippled?" "No." "Well, then what?" I pressed. "Why?" The dog answered, "I quit." "You quit?" "Yes," I said. "No, yes," he said, "I quit." "Well, why did you quit?" "I just quit because after all that running and running and running, I found out that the rabbit I was chasing wasn't even real." That got me today, because I suddenly realised in my own life I have chased an awful lot of plastic rabbits. Not in a rude way. I've just suddenly thought about rabbits, rabbit ears. Anyway, moving on really quickly. I also wanted to give you a bit of an offer. So I thought that this might be quite a nice thing to do. You might know that I have got an online course. I'm just going to share my screen with you. So I've got an online course. Look at that, all the wonders of modern technology. Yes, it's called Evolutionary Intuition, the 4 Intuitive Systems, and it's on sale for £195, which is cheap at half the price. But I'm going to do a flash sale as it's January, and if you want to sign up and do this course, it's teaching you the 4 intuitive elements: your somatic intuition, your emotional intuition, your spiritual intuition, and your mental intuition. And if you would like to take part in the course, I am knocking £100 off, which means that you're going to get to do this course for £95, but you've got literally until 8:30 tomorrow night to send me an email to say that you want to do it. So you're going to send an email to becky@beckywalsh.com. You can look at the details of the course on my website, but literally flash sale, 24 hours, £95, jobs are good. And now that's made me sound like I'm on a market stall, but that's the best that I can do. So just remember that you can grab hold of one-to-one consultations with me if anything's that been triggered by what we've been talking about today. So you can actually grab a one-to-one consultation with me. I am going to be doing this again because I did enjoy it. I had a nice time. So thank you so much for joining me, and I really want to say thank you so much to Kat as well, because I couldn't have really done it without her, because I couldn't have read all of your comments. I'm going to now go back and read all of your comments and stop the broadcast. This broadcast is going to be put up on YouTube, and people will have the opportunity to watch it again. So I do talk quite quickly. So if you're like, oh, what is it you said? Then there's going to be a link so that you're going to be able to go and have a little look at that, so you'll be able to do that. Thank you for joining me. And and if you didn't know already, there's a free online course on my website as well, all about ideas spark, how to get more of those light bulb turn on moments. So you just need to go over to beckywalsh.com and sign up for that free course. And I'd love your feedback. If any of you are doing that course at the moment and you're enjoying it, then I'd love to hear what you're thinking about it and how it's going for you. So, maybe you could write a comment or drop me an email. That would be lovely. Thank you ever so much for joining me. Really appreciate it. And thank you, Kat.
You're very welcome. Thanks ever so much for everybody for all your questions. I know we didn't get to everybody's question today, but come back next month. We're going to do it again.
Okay, thanks ever so much. Bye.